paid for by the New World Order.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on G.
Oh, yes. We are here.
Paid for by the New World Order.
I don't know if you heard that, but we got a new remixed intro for the Snowman. Snow, it's you're in the darkness. You're in the darkness, Snow. And let me give you a reason why you are in the darkness, Snow. We, the Flex Network, are presenting our top 15 WWE storylines, then, now, and forever. The original Mankind versus the Undertaker feud. We're gonna do this. We're gonna lay out, not we, of course, I am not gonna do this, okay? The Snowman, who is on the other side of the glass, you can see him pointing to himself over here. Snowman is doing hard work for us here at the Flex Network, for you listeners. I made this guy write down 15 feuds. I needed a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I need all the dates for this so that when our viewers can click on our thing here and watch our cast, they're going to be able to click on our file or view what we have put in the description as these individual dates. Okay, they're going to be able to go back. They're going to watch these matches on the network. They're going to be able to follow along after we input this. So, Snowman, what's up, brother? What kind of research went into the process of trying to create this cast for everybody?
Well, the creation of this cast was basically just, something I wanted to do. The top 15 most impactful, rivalries that I thought that if I went back and rewatched them on the network, from beginning to end, that I would get the goosebumps. I get shiver up my spine. And so for this first 15 set of 15, I hope we're going to do more, in the future, wink, wink. But I'm going to limit this first half, this first 15 original list to Attitude. I'm from 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000, into the new millennium, 01, and I might touch 02, maybe 03. You gotta come back to see how far I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna limit myself to that time frame because that is where I hone my craft. And just by going back and just watching all these, like Raw, SmackDown, Heat, and the pay-per-views alone, just to get something, in my blood to like go, I need to rewatch this again and just go with it. So that's my origin of how this list came. I had to go back and watch hours and hours and hours and hours and years of stuff that's stuck into my brain with how impactful and how awesome these matches were, not just because of the storytelling, but the buildup and sometimes, depending on the pay-per-view and which pay-per-view it was, in the late 90s and the early 2000s, the theme song for it. Because you got to think, with every great rivalry, you need a track to just stamp this thing to make it sound and make it awesome.
Yes, no, that is exactly what you need. And I would have to say that I was the one that really came up with number 15, mainly because what a way to start with such an iconic feud. I mean, we all know,
Yes.
Exactly. We all know Mankind versus The Undertaker as the Hell in the Cell, but how did we get there? Okay. What happened? And Snow, we're going to start this off pretty nicely here. So we have April 1st, Raw 1996, after WrestleMania 7. That is
Nope.
right? Or
No, it is after
12.
WrestleMania 12, the WrestleMania of the first ever 60-minute Iron Man match. And that pay-per-view alone, go back and watch that. You'll get to see great action, from the start of the card all the way through to the end, and it's just a classic.
So we roll right into the start of this feud after such a classic pay-per-view. The Raw after WrestleMania 12, Mankind makes his debut against Bob Holly, who later becomes hardcore Holly, obviously a couple years later in 98, as you so eloquently posted here for our listeners, which will be up here very soon. What do you think, Snow, when you first saw Mankind grace WWE?
Well, not how he graced us and how he came in and how we started the next year of this, of wrestling. The night after WrestleMania, the Raw after, and the very first thing you see and hear is this dark and eerie, music. And you see coming out of the tunnel, out of the Raw set, the RAW set back then, was this disfigured Mankind with the mask and the hair missing from his scalp, and just this creepy vibe of him. And that
literally on his way in, he has patches of baldness in his head. I mean, this guy's got long brown, messy brown hair, patches of baldness. Now, this is an amazing bit of storytelling, because during this first match that Mankind had, you see him pulling his hair out. I mean, the word that just describes the beginning of Mankind is deranged. I mean,
literally, that his first night, and he's deranged. That's how you set this thing up. It's just he's a deranged person, a deranged soul.
And he's dark, and he's wearing this mask, and he's just
of leather.
A leather mask, and he's all brown. Just a very neutral, just, if you were to see that guy walking down the street today, and I mean, this is something that's so great about the old time WWE, WWF, is they were not afraid to really go up against it when you're talking about characters that were weird, crazy, deranged. This is something that is kind of lost upon WWE up until just this most recent, week, when you first saw the Fiend back into action. That first exactly, that first match, what stood out about that first match with Mankind that kind of put him into what you would view him as now?
The fact that we're seeing this brand new character to the world, to the WWE world, and the fact that this guy is just lashing out against Bob Holly, and he's just making it so vicious and not caring what he's doing. This is a guy who loves pain, as you could tell with him pulling the hair out of his head and just squealing, and that mandible claw, just wow.
So the word you just said, squealing, I mean, that is 100% what it is. When he's wailing in on these punches, he's like, he's just, he has no regard, and he's insane. He's insane. And
Insane in the membrane.
and how did that match end?
That match just ended with Mankind, putting on the mandible claw and passing out Bob Holly right there.
And
But the after the match, you kind of think, we're gonna get this grim and dark theme again. Like, no, we get sunshine, music, piano, cheerful music that just throws you off. It's like, what the? How are we getting dark and eerie at the very beginning, and then transition to cheerful on a piano? Smiley, happy time.
You're right. When the match ended, there was kind of almost like ballroom music a little bit playing afterwards. And again, for our listeners here and anybody that wants to listen, we urge you, I mean, we're making these podcasts and we're going through the timeline so that you can also just after this cast tap into the dates, go back on the network and start. So again, first date, April 1st, 1996. It was a Raw. And after Mankind wins, we have a match later on, which I believe is the main event. Undertaker versus Justin Hawk Bradshaw, becoming later JBL, as
Wink,
you would
wink.
know him.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, and you gotta understand about this timeline. The Undertaker at this time is in the narrowish black hat and the purple gloves Undertaker. This is what we know as the purple glove Undertaker.
A classic Undertaker.
Yes. And this is a time, because you're gonna see when you watch this, and if you're someone who has the network or is a current listener, watcher of WWE, or someone who has the network and is, just going through and rewatching stuff, you're going to notice a change from 96 Undertaker to 97 to 98, 99, 2000, 2000. You're going to notice changes in this man, and it's awesome. But back to the credit of Undertaker, the purple glove Undertaker and Paul Bearer coming off of WrestleMania 12 and defeating Big Daddy Cool Diesel in his one of many, the keyword many, WrestleMania victories that will be coming along every year for a lot of years, quite frankly. This is an Undertaker that everyone is like, oh, we know we're going to get a great Undertaker. So to go up against,
he's almost instantly iconic at this
yes.
point. I mean, by WrestleMania 12, he is probably absolutely the best character they have.
Yep. Up at the top. I mean, because you got to establish at this time, you've got the roster is built with, Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. You got Diesel. You got Razor Ramon, who these two, when we get down the line, maybe within a, short couple months, they're gone and they leave to become the NWO. But, this is a stacked roster, that's being built for the future. If you watch closely enough, when you go back and watch all these, matches, Raw, the Raws, and, just in the pay-per-views, you notice, wait a minute, I know him. He becomes someone else later. Or I know that, that woman, she's going to be, down the line, she's going to be a bombshell knockout, or just to that degree, this is a roster you want to watch.
Right. So basically what you're saying is the Undertaker is so primed at this point. And during this, and where we're going with this is he has this match with Bradshaw, Justin Hawk is what they keep calling him, and during this match, Undertaker Mankind interferes in the match. Now here's the thing. You have like you said, the roster is built, and you have this new deranged Mankind, and you bring him in, and he automatically interferes in your best character's match on his debut night. That sets a huge precedence. And go ahead.
And not only that, but beats him so badly that he makes the biggest statement of, I'm here. I'm a force to be reckoned with, and this is how you make an impact. Boom.
And it was big. I mean, he comes out here and essentially he starts beating him up, but he throws him into the steel steps. I mean, back then that was a real big deal. Today kind of seems like the steel steps aren't even anything, but back in that day, and this is an old school WWE. I mean, we're talking about, they don't have big like padded guardrails like they have now. They don't have big padded sides. I mean, when he got Undertaker down on the concrete and he did an elbow drop from the apron, I mean, he nailed him. I mean, it was really hard, and it was right onto that, just like concrete with the freaking 1996 gym mat as your side mat. I mean, this was definitely low budget WWE as far as their sides and their aprons and stuff like that. It was really selling the idea that Mankind was not going anywhere. And he went and he attacked the most demonic, evil person. So he walked right into the face of hell. And he says, I'm here, I'm deranged, I'm gonna go ahead and attack you. Puts the mandible claw on him so much that Undertaker starts foaming from the mouth. I mean, they really sold it. The refs pulled him back, he came back, mandible claw, just pulled him back, came back, mandible claw, and then at like near the end of that, it almost seemed like he was absolutely choking the Undertaker like to death. Undertaker kind of convulsed. I mean, it was great selling. Mm-hmm. What did you think about Mankind's he tried to stake his name that night.
He made his name that night. I mean, if you're going to do something the very first night of the wrestling new year, the first show, the first Raw after WrestleMania, after everything's been built, and I've said this before on post podcasts, when it comes to WrestleMania is the end of the year. The next night is this brand new year. From then until the next WrestleMania, it's building a story. It's building an audience. It's building interest. And what are you going to do to start your year off? You're not just going to, maybe you end a rivalry from the WrestleMania in a big way, leading up to the next pay-per-view. But how do you really start a year? You get a new character, someone that people can either be afraid of or someone that everyone knows by name from another organization, and you have them go up against the reigning big name in the land in that company, and you make your impact hard. So this was an awesome way to start the new year.
So after this, what happens, Snow?
So let me ask you a question. Generally you have a start part of a rivalry. You're going to have, promos against each other to like, oh, we're going to have a match at this, couple weeks or something like that. You think that's common, especially in wrestling. Am I correct?
Of course.
But what if I was to tell you that instead of we're just getting, it's one-on-one, promos and everything, we don't have that. We start off, everything, but then we separate for a little bit and we go off and do different things. like, say, The Undertaker and a very other deranged person, but this kind of person is more androgynous. Androgynous, is that the word I want to use for this time frame?
Exotic.
Well, androgynous because of who it is. And it is the son of a plumber, but it's more of a Goldust.
Oh yes.
So the Undertaker and Goldust are going to have a are now going at it going to have a feud for this first pay-per-view that we're going to get to after WrestleMania. At this time frame, Goldust is, he's the Intercontinental Champion, and just he's kind of like Mankind and messes with the mind. He plays mind games to like, oh, hello, sexy. I want, at this, this is a different, atmosphere in 96, the what we call, how do you, I kind of want to let you how do you want to handle this word, in this in our time frame now in 2019 of what
It
Goldust was acting like.
aggressive. He was flamboyant.
Mhm.
Um I mean,
Swinging
basically, yeah,
swinging from the
he's
other side of the plate a little bit,
yeah,
make
a
it seem
little
that
bit.
way. I don't want to make that, I don't want to label it, but I want to give the idea of like, he was kind of swinging for the other side in a mind game way.
And so they are basically setting up. So we go from April 1st, 1996. The next time you essentially see Mankind as a part of this is not until May 20th. And in that time, they had set up a casket match for The Undertaker versus Goldust at, what is
In
that? In Your
your
House
house,
8.
beware of dog.
So during that, setup for that Intercontinental title match on the Raw before, so this is May 20th, 1996, Undertaker shoots a promo inside the casket.
With Paul Bear outside, Paul Bear starts off this interview with a casket along. He's, being asked questions about the upcoming match and everything. And he gets, Paul Bear gets asked, hey, where's the Undertaker? Where's the Undertaker at? Oh, you would like to see the Undertaker? Well, he's right here. And we open the casket, and there he is, just lying there. And he is now cutting his promo for this match, saying, basically telling the Goldust that you will be in this casket at Beware of Dog. And he's going through it. But all of a sudden, what happens? Mankind comes in and shuts that casket like it's no tomorrow, and just goes to town by tying it up first to make sure he's not gonna get any, comeback, and then just decides to go to town with a curtainish size long pipe and bash it all to hell.
So on Raw, again, WWE is playing the long game here. Okay. They had them interact on April 1st, and it was not until May 20th that they had any interaction again. It had been forgotten about almost to a point. Mankind comes up, ties the casket shut, then beats it with a pipe. It indents near the torso area of Undertaker. He tosses the casket upside down, and then basically we're done with that. I mean, we're done with that promo. Then
It,
in your go ahead.
but now we got this new dynamic because now you've got it's looking like Goldust and Mankind are going to be now taking on the Undertaker. So this is now adding layers to this rivalry now. So this is intriguing because now it's no longer just Goldust and Undertaker or Undertaker and Mankind. It's now adding the layer of Mankind and Goldust. They're gonna somewhat be intertwined a little bit to go up against the Undertaker. Something for you guys to think about as you continue to watch and listen for this.
Yeah, so we get to Beware of Dog in your house, and this is something that I used to love about the old WWF era. The in your house pay-per-views sometimes were just, I mean, they're kind of they were fun. It seemed like they were kind of your elevated house show. They were almost like they were just, that was crazy. Snow,
And-
check your cell phone real quick. But
no problem.
in your house, a Beware of Dog. The pay-per-view actually lost power during the second match of the broadcast. The feed was not restored until the main event. So the pay-per-view was actually done in two parts. Which part were the Mankind which part was Undertaker versus Goldust? Was that on the first two, or we had to like record it afterwards, right?
Well, what happened on Beware of Dog is that they split into two events. They split into Beware of Dog and Beware of Dog 2. They had the matches, for that main card. The lights cut out during a big storm. The lights for the arena cut out, and they were still, filming, but you can only like barely see. So they went through the entire card up until the main event, which was Shawn Michaels and British Bulldog for the title. The next night on Raw, they announced, next week or tomorrow night, we're going to do we're going to do another event, Beware of Dog 2. We're going to have 3 matches on the card. We're going to have Austin and Savio Vega, Undertaker, and
Goldust
for the Intercontinental title in the casket match, and we're going to have Vader and Yokozuna. So we're going to give you guys a call your local cable subscriber to see about doing something. So they were basically giving away another pay-per-view to a degree the night after.
Right. So, and we have that written down here for the viewers. So Beware of Dog was May 26th. And then Raw number happened. 2, Raw happened on the 27th, and then the Beware of Dog 2 happened on the 28th in 1996. Undertaker versus Goldust in the casket match. Essentially, Mankind, as you would probably assume now that we're seeing it, he interferes and helps Goldust win. Mm-hmm. That's a nice one, easy. But again, then we get another kind of not a layover, but you don't, they just.
I want to call it a slow build. I want to call this a slow build.
Yeah, so they basically just announced them for a match at the King of the Ring. There was no build up. There was no promo that they shot for it. It was just one of these. Because back in the day, I mean, King of the Ring was set up a little bit differerly back in the day. They were so.
Yeah, it is today.
Yeah, they were so quick to be like, and they're actually, what's kind of honest is they're actually doing that right now. All of a sudden, we got a small promo. King of the Ring start, we're bringing it back. First matches start next week. So it's kind of like this. They were like, okay, King of the Ring. During the thing, we're just going to go, okay, here's the thing. Well, Undertaker versus Mankind is the first match. Essentially, not the first, but, in the first round.
Match.
At King of the Ring, June 23rd, 1996, Mankind wins in just a straight-up match via Mandible Claw. Can you remember anything special about this match other than it was just a momentum builder for what we would see in the future?
Yeah, this actually was not a part of the King of the Ring tournament per se. This was a match just itself. Because when we got to King of the Ring, it was like down to the final. We were down to the final.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So, but you gotta understand, King of the Ring at that time was actually a pay-per-view. It was on the calendar for up until 2002. After that, it went away. So a great pay-per-view. But this match itself, I mean, this literally started, to see the first match between these guys, and they were just going to town on each other, not laying anything to go to waste, outside the ring, inside the ring. This was just a match that you wanted to see. And it eventually planted some seeds for the future. Because if you watch at the end of the match, a big seed gets
Yep.
planted.
Which was
Unintentionally, Paul Bearer was trying to go for, trying to nail Mankind to help Taker, but inadvertently hits the Undertaker and costs him the match.
let's plant the seed for our listeners as well. So now the feud is here. We have here's some time off. We're really here. So right smack dab next pay-per-view, another In Your House.
Yep.
This is number 9.
International incident. And
Okay.
a lot because you're the In Your Houses, they're named. So it's not just In Your House, it's numbered and named. So it adds a little fun to it.
So this, again, out of nowhere, I guess just to continue the Goldust feud, Undertaker versus Goldust, and it almost feels as if the Mankind feud is a sidebar feud a little bit towards this Goldust Undertaker feud. Undertaker wins via DQ. Mankind rips through the ring, dragged Undertaker down as Mankind came up, waiting for another attack. Undertaker then comes through the other side of the ring, and they fight all the way to the boiler room. Again, another nugget dropped on the real future of this entire feud. And this is exactly why I wanted to start with this feud, because this feud builds into the future when WWE really understands. I mean, when Mankind and Undertaker hit Hell in the Cell, at that time WWE was pumping.
On fire.
It was cranking. And so, they knew what they were doing. They were setting up this Mankind versus Undertaker future. Fighting all the way to the boiler room. And this is where we have labeled as the midpoint of this feud.
When you reach this point, you've hit the middle. And it's getting good.
Because at the very next pay-per-view, we already know we're into August. What's August mean for pay-per-view time?
I can't say it because it's later they tagged this, but it is now SummerSlam. It's the summertime, and we're going to have a party in August.
It's the second biggest pay-per-view that WWE does all year.
It's number 2. It's part of the big 4. You have your WrestleMania, your SummerSlam, your Survivor Series, the Thanksgiving tradition, and you've got the Royal Rumble.
Which I always looked at the Royal Rumble as the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, but I can understand why it's not, because Royal Rumble is only so big because of how amazingly big WrestleMania is. They go hand in hand, but it's almost as if because Royal Rumble just inherently sets up WrestleMania, it can't be their second biggest pay-per-view of the year. SummerSlam hits in the summer. They book these pay-per-views. Anyway, Undertaker versus Mankind. What did we say in the last pay-per-view? Just last month on the 21st, they fought all the way back to the boiler room.
All the way to the bowels of the building.
Here's what WWE does. They say, boiler room? Let's create history by creating a boiler room brawl match where the two opponents will start in the boiler room and then the winner must make it back to the ring to grab the Undertaker's urn from Paul Bearer to signify the winner. Okay. Now, when I was a kid, the Boiler Room Brawl match probably went down in history as like one of my absolute favorite matches. I mean, I can still recall that match today, just about how iconic this match was. And this is like so awesome of a match to dictate the end of this feud, or like where this feud is going, because it's the climax. You've hit the middle, you've hit the climax. The Boiler Room Brawl match. What did you think, Snow, as a child? Because you're younger than me, to
Not that
watch
much.
this, to watch this being a younger kid, though, what did you think, man?
Oh, good God. It's like, what the hell are these guys doing to each other? They're going to kill each other. I mean, to quote JR, this was a snobber knocker.
You
Good.
actually believed it, though, right? That
Yes.
was when you believed it.
I mean, you have a match. It's not going to start in the ring. It's not going to start, in a classic way. It's going to start in the bowels of the building at the midway part of the year for this, calendar year of wrestling at SummerSlam, and it's being hyped as one of their big matches for that time. And it's just so barbaric. I mean, to go from the Boiler Room, which is so warm and hot and humid, to, you know, preventing, trying to get, prevent Undertaker from escaping, and just, see him coming through the door like, come here. It's like, I want you. And to go through the hallway with the superstars are, there as well, the watching on, and then like encouraging. They love this. They're encouraging these guys to kill each other. And you're seeing coffee being thrown at Undertaker, and it's just,
Also, one of my favorite
bonkers.
parts in the Broiler Room, there's like a part where Undertaker just rips the wheel and opens up the freaking steam valve and psst, all over. I mean,
Oh,
it was. I forget if it was Undertaker or Mankind that did that, but to
yeah.
honestly, like the build to that match was so phenomenal. I mean, you had Undertaker coming down the corridor. Mankind's already in the Broiler Room.
Mhm.
Undertaker opens the door. Look, you don't know where Mankind is. You can see him ducking underneath things. He's but here's the thing about it. This is why it was written so beautifully. Undertaker's not scared. He's
No.
from the darkness. He's going to go search this guy out. Now, he's only being hesitant because he does not want Mankind to come out from nowhere with a fucking, again, a lead pipe upside his head or something. So he's being cautious, but he's not afraid. And this was something that was awesome. Also, the feed to the match. So you could tell the crowd was watching it on the feed, because the second the feed cut out for a second, they were like,
Boo.
oh,
But and you
they
also
were
got,
into it.
yeah, I mean, you also got to remember that, this is 96, like today. We have these big, monitors above the ring, for like scoreboards and, stuff that a big Titantron that you could see what's going on. Not a lot of people had that, technology back in 96. I mean, yeah, there was a video board, down the aisle at SummerSlam, but a lot of the, people in the front row weren't seeing the match. So WWE decided, what, we're going to put some big ass TVs out in front, in the four corners, four areas of the ring, so people in the front row could see what is going on. And they're seeing chaos with, from the feed getting cut and to them coming out from the Boiler Room out into the crowd, from the entranceway, Undertaker just running and clotheslining, Mankind, and their fight towards the front to get to the ring, to get to Paul Bearer and the urn, the mythical urn of the Undertaker is the prize this night.
So they get there and give it to me, Snow. What? Give it to
Oh,
me.
you thought fighting in the boiler room was bad. You gotta think. Undertaker, Mankind pulling up the mat, the gym mats on the floor and trying to spike pile drive Undertaker. No. They're going to climb the ring rope, and Undertaker, smart as he is, jerks him back. Mankind falls back on his head or back on his back and, hits the concrete floor. Literally.
You don't see it anymore. I mean, you
No,
just don't.
no, you don't. So Undertaker has finally gotten to the ring. He's all alone with Paul Bearer, and he asks for the urn in the best way he knows how. Ugh. And he asks, give it to me. Give me the urn. Nope. Paul Bearer doesn't give it to him. Instead, just looks around, and Mankind comes behind and just starts going to town on him. Because we're seeing the seeds from international incident flourishing before our eyes as the Undertaker is being betrayed by his second manager, by his longtime manager, his confidant, the man who holds the urn, the power of the urn, and Paul Bearer betraying the Undertaker. And
It was a big deal.
it was mind-blowing. You don't see that. You don't see your manager just turning on you, especially if your longest person, the longest friend you've had from the time maybe a little bit after his debut, back at 93. No, yeah, 93 at the Survivor Series. He had Brother Love for a short stint, and then he was introduced to Paul Bearer from Brother Love. And from them, they went on a destruction tirade. And it's just so mind blowing of how this person could just stab him in the back or stab him in the head with the urn and
So
let
he
and let
aligns himself with Mankind.
mm-hmm,
Essentially is what that happened.
yes.
Cracks him over the head with his own urn, gives it to Undertaker, gives it to Mankind. You see them form an allegiance. You saw one of the best swerves of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the match,
The
gong hits.
the light
Undertaker's basically dead. Like, he's dead.
he is knocked out. The lights start to go down. And what do you see coming? You hear this, not the Undertaker. I mean, you hear some of the Undertaker's music, but it changes to a like Greek, kind of like Catholic Roman, singing, but it's the Druids theme. The Undertaker's Druids just come to collect the dead man, and they carry him off out of the arena for now.
So he's gone. But
He's
the
gone.
the very next day, August 19th, Mankind is being interviewed for his match at In Your House 10 Mind Games, which is a WWF championship match against HBK. He's won the opportunity to go face HBK because he had just defeated The Undertaker in a boiler room brawl match. And during his promo,
With Paul Bearer at his side,
the Druids carry out Undertaker's body. And go ahead, tell me.
and Mankind and Paul Bearer are like, no, everyone, relax. Everyone, let's pay our respects to the Undertaker. He's gone. Let's all bow our heads and, he's gone forever. And all of a sudden, the Undertaker has been, he's already been placed on the floor of the arena in front of them, no less. He sits right up and is back wanting more of Mankind by saying with this setup and going after Mankind and just standing in the ring and scaring these two off to God knows where. He says evil is not dead yet, and I want some more of Mankind.
So you didn't put the dates here for this next one, but In Your House 10, the very next pay-per-view, which is, I would assume sometime probably the end of August, maybe or very early September. The match gets set up between Undertaker versus Goldust in a final curtain match, which is essentially just a no DQ match, but you must win by pin. It makes sense to put him back with Goldust, even though he just kind of died. He came back to life the next day with the Druids, but you've already announced you've got a WWF Championship match. So essentially, it's an In Your House, and you're basically kind of finding a way to reconverge these two. Undertaker wins the final curtain match against Goldust.
And this essentially will end the Goldust side of this, because we do not see Goldust in Undertaker's business, for matches or anything like that for the rest of the time.
And you can imagine, I mean, it's a no DQ match. So, I mean, the match doesn't just stay in the ring. There's it's a good
go
way
everywhere.
to end everywhere. And so later on that night is the WWF Championship match, HBK versus Mankind. Obviously, HBK is already in some other sidebar feuds because HBK has his own things going on during this time, but he's going to win by DQ because Vader interferes and Sid Vicious helps Shawn Michaels by attacking Vader back. Now, that actually leaves Mankind alone after HBK is kind of down and out to attempt to put... Now, wait a second here. A casket? So what does the casket have to do with the HBK versus Mankind? I forgot about this.
I'm glad you asked. So at the very beginning of this match, the introductions, the music's played, and out comes Mankind. Well, and Paul Bear, but wait a minute, where's Mankind? All you see is Paul Bear and a casket.
That's right.
Paul Bear brings the casket to ringside onto the side, looking down the Titantron area, the ramp, onto the side of the ring. On the
more
side.
symbolism for the Undertaker feud.
And he opens the casket, and out comes Mankind to start his match, for his match against HBK for the WWF title.
Now listen, he comes out in the casket. So Mankind, Paul Bear opens the casket. Mankind is in the casket. Paul Bear shuts the casket. Okay. Doesn't move, doesn't go anywhere. You're right. I forgot about this. This is so amazing.
And it doesn't get touched for the rest of the entire match until after Sid is taking care of Vader. And Mankind,
so Vader interferes, right? He interferes. Sid attacks Vader for interfering. And HBK is down on the mat, after the interference from Vader.
Yep. After they've gone, you see Mankind just, on the ground, still being, knocked out from getting the little sweet chin. And you see Paul Bear holding up the urn upside down, symbolic for Mankind at this point. And you just see his hand twitching and, like for the mandible claw. and he gets up and just puts it in Michael's mouth, knocks him out completely. But then he just decides to call for the casket to be open, to put Shawn Michaels in the casket. Now, you would think Paul Bear's going to just, he's going to open the casket and we're going to put Shawn Michaels in the casket, symbolic for the fact that Mankind just took down another individual. But you'd be wrong, because inside the casket is none other than the dead man, the Undertaker, and scares the crap out of Paul Bear when he raises the casket. Ah! And we have another brawl with Mankind.
Now, all the way to the back.
Uh-huh. All the way
That
back
was one of the
back.
greatest reveals ever.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was one of the, I mean, honestly, Mankind just came out that casket. They shut it. It's not like it went anywhere. They had to have some pretty good parlor tricks for that to open the lid up to put freaking HBK in that casket, and boom, it's the Undertaker. That is great TV. That is exactly what you want. And that's exactly why you're missing that from today's wrestling. You're just missing it.
I mean, this is part of Undertaker's tricks. It's his mind games.
Mind games.
Quote unquote, for the pay-per-view that they're at. It's all mind games, and it just makes you like invest more. It's like, take my money, I want more.
So as we move on to this, again, just one of the most iconic moments in the history of WWE. But let's get there first.
Yeah.
Raw 177, September 23rd, 1996 was the first. Go ahead.
I want to do this part because this is you gotta do get the feeling.
Do it.
Because of the events of the previous night at In Your House Mind Games 10, In Your House 10 Mind Games, and the fact that these two can't seem to finish each other, the WWF has announced that there will be an unsanctioned by the World Wrestling Federation a match between The Undertaker, Mankind, in the first ever Buried Alive match.
Oh. Wow. Now, yes. What does that even mean?
That means that, and the best piece of this whole thing with how ingenious the pay-per-view schedule is. The next pay-per-view, October 20th, 1996, there will be a grave site built in the arena with dirt, with the tombstone of The Undertaker, Mankind, and the name of the pay-per-view is In Your House 11, Buried Alive. And the only way to win this unsanctioned match is to bury your opponent alive. And that means digging and putting him into the ground that is being built there, that is at that event. It just starts shoveling dirt, essentially burying your opponent alive. Oh.
It does give you chills, because that will go down in history. And here we go. Like, the climax of this event was the Boiler Room Brawl.
Well, we thought it was the climax.
Well, no, that was the climax. But as we're getting down to the end, you have to have that just Cascadian plunge
Mhm.
of where we're gonna end this thing,
And
and
you
this
got
is it.
yeah, because you gotta think, regular rivalry, like it's you and me. We have a match. We go on for maybe a couple months. If it gets continuously build up. What do you think a lot of times are the final match rivalry is going to be? You know, at that time,
I don't know.
a steel cage match. We're gonna we're
Oh,
gonna settle
right.
it. We're gonna
Yeah.
settle in the cage, and that's it. After that, we go our separate ways. We do our own things, and we
I
might
thought
come
you were
back.
talking about me and
No,
you right
yeah,
now.
no.
Okay.
Well, a lot of times, it's if a lot of times you would see, the cage match is the final match
Right.
in a rival
100% back then.
in a
Or
in
a
a
ladder
rivalry,
match.
or a ladder match, or
Yep.
a street fight. Just something that stamps it, that says this is it. We're done. Go home. This is the final big match we're gonna get. But
Because
no,
we have built this.
for nearly half the wrestling year, it's
And
been built.
deranged mankind these interferences, these casket matches, the boiler room brawl. This is prime fucking time WWE, WWF back then, when they were going for it. A fucking buried alive match to really send home this feud. This feud should probably be closer to the top than 15, but I loved it. It's a great way to start because this is iconic.
Hmm. I mean,
So let's get there.
because even more, I mean, this introduced the first boiler room brawl match, the first buried alive match, and it was the appearance of Mankind. So this had to be on the list. And unfortunately, for everything
It is the
above it,
list.
I know, but everything above this match, it it gets me a goose. It gets my bumps bumping. It gets my goosebumps.
Your bumps are bumping.
Ah,
Okay, so we set this up by September 23rd, 1996 was the first promo for the Better Alive match. First appearance of the Tombstone for the match, which is a JR Shoot promo, added Bones.
yeah, that was a really good one. When you get to that point, it's going to be a very fun, interesting, shoot promo for you guys to watch.
I'm
I
gonna go
enjoyed it.
back and watch it the second this cast is over because I had completely forgot about that again. And this is so great that you have laid this out for everybody to kind of see, because you're right, man. Without that part, because I remember that, and without that, I mean, you need that. It's like the send home Raw for WrestleMania or something. It's like just the final freaking stake. So in your house, 11 buried alive. Undertaker, Mankind.
And, and be fitting, it's in the month of evil, literally the month of Halloween in October, that we get to see someone be buried alive.
So
Couldn't fit better.
Undertaker wins, correct?
Yes. This match, it built up and was as everything we expected with a Mankind and Undertaker match. Undertaker wins. He starts putting burying the Mankind alive, essentially. But we get, in the middle of this burial, this Mankind being put in the ground and Undertaker shoveling the dirt, we get interference in the way of a mysterious person and a shovel. And he is out cold. And the person, we don't know who this person is. It's a masked figure. I mean, it's not really a masked figure, it's a hooded figure. And after Paul Bearer and this mystery person pull Mankind out of the grave, and they put Undertaker in the grave, they proceed to bury him under dirt, just pure dirt. And for 6 minutes, In this 6-minute time frame, you see multiple superstars, what we would call bad guys at the time. You start to see a Justin Hawk Bradshaw. You see Gold Dust. You see a Triple H, a Hunter Hearst Helmsley, a Crush, and Paul Bear, Mankind, and this unknown figure who we will find out later is known as the Executioner. Weird. But they proceed to just bury this man alive for 6 minutes. It took to put the dirt on top of him. And after, during the process, you start to see the lights and the thunder going off, like it was about to pour, like something, like a presence was there, and it scares off the extra individuals and just leaves Mankind, Paul Bearer, and the unknown person to celebrate their accomplishment. Mankind standing over the grave and just shoving the shovel into the grave. They leave, and as by an unholy evil that symbolically states the Undertaker, lightning hits the tombstone, hits the gravesite. And you could just feel like, whoa, what is happening? And at the head of the tombstone, you see nothing but a purple hand glove reach up and is just there saying, I am not dead. And by the very best line I could say of Vince McMahon on commentary, the Undertaker lives. The Undertaker's alive. Evil shall not rest in peace.
This whole entire scene is probably the single most iconic piece of all of WWF history. When Undertaker was buried alive, lightning strikes, his hand thrust through the dirt. He is alive. And that's a small little end to such a great piece of writing. The very next or the week after, they were then announced for Survivor Series. And that's on October 28, 1996. Then November 4th, 1996, they had a small promo for their match leading up to November 17th, 1996. So they go from October 20th to November 17th, essentially trying to build their absolute final match. Not absolute final. Sorry, not absolute final, but like really the final, like culmination of this match.
Main rival. This is the final air time of the frame, the final main part of this whole rivalry. From the start to now to Survivor Series, and at this time, the Undertaker has not been seen. He hasn't appeared. His voice may have been echoed to set up this match, but this Undertaker has not been seen since buried alive. So we get to the Survivor Series. And the stipulation is for this match, this final match, Paul Bearer must be placed in a shark cage hanging above the ring. And if the Undertaker can somehow incapacitate Mankind, he may get his hands on Paul Bearer and right the wrongs that he has cost him for all those months ago and for everything since. So Mankind makes his entrance, and then darkness. And you think, okay, we're gonna see the Undertaker. Where's he's gonna be back. Well, all you have to do is look up at the Madison Square Garden crowd as they look above to the high heavens and see a black figure, a dark bat of evil ascend from the heavens to come back from the dead as a black bat with wings to come back and and gone are the purple glove Undertaker. Gone is the hat, the old timey black hat with purple rim. Now appears an all black leather evil Undertaker coming for his revenge and gets it. Oh, damn. I could scare myself sometimes.
So, but he gets it to a point. He wins the match, but he doesn't get to Paul Bearer as the executioner from the Buried Alive match interferes.
Again, he beats Mankind. We see him tombstone Mankind, and Paul Bearer's freaking out because he knows he's going to get, his comeuppance from the Undertaker. And all of a sudden, he's being lowered from the shark cage right into Undertaker's waiting hands. Come on down. He starts to get the cage open, and out comes Executioner to ruin the fun, to ruin a Undertaker getting his hands on Paul Bearer. You would think that would be the end, of this whole Undertaker and Paul Bearer saga.
Well, it can't be the end because the Executioner, that's a twice interfered match.
And like I said earlier for SummerSlam, and for In Your House International Incident, this continued to be planting seeds for the future between Paul Bearer and the Undertaker. Oh, and it gets good. Trust me. I'm smiling like the Grinch for this because it's so good for later down the line.
So, in your little after notes here, December 9th Raw, final match, no holds barred.
Mm-hmm.
Who is that?
That would be Undertaker versus Mankind one final time in this rivalry. They just announced it on the Raw before on the Raw before. So December 9th, they have their final match.
And that's on a Raw.
It's on a Raw, on a Monday Night Raw, and a no holds barred match.
So they really didn't have their final match with the shark cage above the ring, but that was just such a iconic kind of end with the culmination of the Paul Bearer thing. Mm-hmm. But there was no Paul Bearer involvement beyond just being a manager for Mankind at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There was no interactions, no whatever. We had a no holds barred match. On Raw. Who won that?
Undertaker finished him off with the tombstone, and that is where our rivalry ends in 96.
Now, then it goes to the pay-per-view the very next, again, In Your House, where the Undertaker faced the Executioner. in an
Mm-hmm.
Armageddon rules match, which essentially is a last man standing with a no DQ. And of course, Undertaker has to win this. He just won this random, out of nowhere, no holds barred match against Mankind. He's got to get the Executioner. See, I mean, come on, it's Undertaker. But here's the thing: did we ever find out who the Executioner was?
No, he was just some random character. I mean, because during this time of 96, in Raw, maybe 97, 96, and 95, you had like cartoon character-ish, athletes. You had like a hockey player named the Goon. You had Doink the Clown. I mean, Duke the Dumpster Drozy, a garbage man. So you had comic book characters essentially in 95 and 96, and it started to thin out as we got to 97 and onward.
So this was just a way to like complete the end of the Executioner character, as well as just make sure that the entire storyline that they had been doing with Mankind and Paul Bearer was finished.
It's tying up loose ends, basically, for this Mankind and Undertaker rivalry. Because as you saw at Mind Games, you saw the last time we saw Taker and Goldust, that was ended. And then the no holds barred December match, that tied up the loose end for the Mankind and Undertaker. And then at Armageddon, at In Your House 12, It's Time, it ended the loose end with the Executioner from the Survivor Series. So it was tying up loose ends so that these two can go off on their separate ways.
And they did. And obviously we understand that, they went into these just amazing eras. They both became WWE legends, Hall of Famers,
icons.
So here's the thing. As we take away from the Undertaker Mankind, the number 15 on our top WWE storylines, rivalries of all time, it's hard not to say that this one isn't the one, number one, because a first ever buried alive match, broiler room brawl match. I mean, just iconic pieces of history. And we are starting with this.
We're starting with a bang.
With a bang. We have so much left to give, so much left to go. Snowman, how can everybody find you, brother? Thank you so much for doing this. Are you just now posting on the Flex Network Twitter? All the wrestling stuff is you, or what? Or do you have your own?
I'm doing both the Flex Network, Twitter and Facebook, and I have my own personal, for Twitter, at AJS Snow I cannot get my own, hype myself up on this. It's one of those, kind of things I have with.
How about this? At the Flex Network 1, catch us, the Snowman. This is the Flex Network.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on the G. Flex.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.